The dog started barking before the man even stepped onto the porch. It wasn't a normal bark. It was sharp, desperate, almost angry, echoing through the frozen silence around the old cabin. The wind pushed across the endless white fields, rattling the loose wooden boards of the house like bones knocking together. The man stood there in the snow, shoulders heavy beneath the faded tactical jacket he still wore even though his days as a Navy SEAL were long behind him. He had faced enemy fire, survived ambushes, and walked through war zones that most people would never even imagine. But something about that broken cabin, and the old dog standing in the doorway, made his chest tighten in a way bullets never had. Because that cabin belonged to his brother. And his brother was dead. But the dog barking inside seemed to be saying something else entirely. Before we continue, take a moment to support the channel. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and powerful life stories that remind us what it means to be human, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story like this. The man standing in the snow was Daniel Carter, once a decorated Navy SEAL, now just a man carrying too many ghosts. When Daniel received the letter saying he had inherited his brother's property, he almost threw it away. The two of them hadn't spoken in nearly 12 years. Not since the night their lives split apart like cracked ice. His older brother, Matthew Carter, had always been the quiet one, the kind of man who preferred forests over cities and solitude over crowds. While Daniel joined the military and traveled the world, Matthew disappeared into rural life, moving to a forgotten patch of land where the nearest neighbor was miles away. The letter had been short. Cold. Legal. Matthew Carter deceased. Property transferred to next of kin. Daniel Carter. There had been no explanation about how his brother died. No details. Just an address and a cabin somewhere in the northern plains. And a note at the bottom. One dog remains on the property. Now Daniel stood outside that very cabin. The place looked like time had abandoned it years ago. The roof sagged slightly beneath old snow. Several windows were cracked or boarded. The wooden porch leaned dangerously, as if one strong storm might finish it off forever. And standing in the doorway was the dog. Old. Thin. A German shepherd mix with graying fur and cloudy eyes. But the moment Daniel stepped closer, the dog stopped barking. It stared at him. Not with fear. With recognition. Daniel froze. Something strange passed between them in that silent moment, as if the dog understood who he was before Daniel even said a word. The man slowly approached the porch, his boots crunching through frozen snow. His body moved with the careful awareness that never left him after years in combat. The dog didn't attack. It didn't retreat either. Instead, it turned and walked slowly inside the cabin, glancing back as if asking him to follow. Daniel hesitated for only a moment before stepping onto the creaking porch and pushing open the door. The smell inside the cabin hit him first, old wood, dust, and the faint scent of something long forgotten. The interior was darker than he expected. Thin beams of pale winter light slipped through cracks in the boarded windows, illuminating floating dust particles that drifted through the cold air. The dog moved deeper inside the house, its stiff legs carrying it toward the back hallway. Daniel looked around. Matthew's life was still here. An old flannel jacket hung near the door. A coffee mug sat on the small wooden table. Boots were placed neatly beside the wall. But there was something unsettling about the stillness, like the house itself was holding its breath. The dog barked again. Short. Urgent. Daniel followed. The hallway floor creaked under his weight as he moved forward. Every instinct he had trained as a SEAL sharpened suddenly. Something didn't feel right about this place. The dog stopped beside a closed door at the end of the hallway. It began scratching at the wood. Over and over. Daniel frowned. Slowly, he pushed the door open. It was a small bedroom. A narrow bed. A dusty dresser. But the dog wasn't interested in any of that. It moved directly to the corner of the room and began scratching the floorboards. Daniel watched for a moment, confused. Then he stepped closer. The boards in that corner looked slightly different from the rest, newer, maybe replaced at some point. The dog whined softly now, pawing harder. Daniel knelt down. His fingers pressed against the wood. Loose. Very loose. He stood and searched the room until he found an old crowbar leaning beside the dresser. Returning to the corner, he wedged it between the boards and pulled. The first plank popped free with a sharp crack. Then another. And another. Beneath the floorboards was darkness. And a metal box. Daniel pulled it out slowly, brushing away the dust. It was heavy. Old military style. His heart began beating faster. He opened the lid. Inside were documents. Photographs. And a small flash drive. Daniel picked up the first photograph. His breath caught. It was a picture of Matthew standing beside a group of men Daniel instantly recognized, not friends, not neighbors. Men connected to a military contracting company Daniel had encountered during one of his deployments overseas. A company known for illegal weapons deals. And corruption. Daniel's mind raced. Matthew had never been involved in anything like that. Never. He grabbed another document. Then another. The deeper he looked into the box, the darker the story became. Financial records. Maps. Names. Matthew had been collecting evidence. For years. Evidence that exposed a powerful criminal network operating inside the United States. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as the realization settled in. Matthew hadn't been hiding out in this cabin. He had been investigating something dangerous. Something that could get a man killed. Which meant one terrifying possibility. Matthew's death might not have been an accident. The dog suddenly growled. Low. Warning. Daniel's head snapped up. Through the cracked window he saw something that made every combat instinct in his body ignite. Fresh tire tracks. Out on the snow-covered road leading to the cabin. And they weren't there earlier. Someone had arrived. Daniel moved instantly, grabbing the box and sliding the documents back inside. The dog stood beside him, alert despite its age. Head raised. Ears forward. Then came the sound. A car door slamming outside. Footsteps in the snow. Heavy. Deliberate. Daniel's breathing slowed the way it always did before danger. His mind shifted into the calm, focused state that had kept him alive through countless missions. He looked down at the dog. The old animal looked back at him with fierce loyalty in its tired eyes. Matthew's dog. Matthew's protector. Daniel placed a hand gently on its head. For the first time since arriving, he whispered softly. You tried to show me the truth, didn't you? The dog wagged its tail once. Outside, the footsteps reached the porch. The door creaked open. A voice called out into the cabin. Cold. Unfamiliar. Daniel stood silently in the shadows of the hallway, heart steady, every muscle ready. Whoever had come here clearly believed Matthew Carter was the only man who knew the truth. They had no idea that Matthew's brother, a Navy SEAL trained for war, was now standing in that cabin. And they definitely hadn't expected an old dog guarding a deadly secret. The footsteps moved slowly through the living room. Closer. Closer. Daniel's eyes moved toward the metal box in his hands. The evidence inside could destroy powerful people. People who would kill to keep it buried. Which meant Matthew had died trying to protect something bigger than himself. A truth worth risking everything for. Daniel looked down at the dog again. The old animal leaned against his leg like a silent partner. And in that moment, something shifted deep inside Daniel Carter. For years he had carried guilt for abandoning his brother. For never reaching out. For never knowing the man Matthew had become. But now Matthew had left him something more powerful than inheritance. A mission. A final chance to finish what his brother started. Before the story reaches its end, we have a special request for you. If this story is already touching your heart, comment the word loyalty below to honor the incredible bond between humans and dogs. Because sometimes, the bravest heroes aren't the soldiers. Sometimes they walk on four legs. The footsteps in the cabin grew closer to the hallway. The man searching the house had no idea what waited for him in the shadows. But Daniel Carter knew something with absolute certainty. Matthew hadn't died alone. His dog had stayed. Guarding the truth. Waiting for the only person who could finish the fight. And tonight. That fight was just beginning. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that loyalty, courage, and second chances still exist in this world, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in the power of hope, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this. Because sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones we almost forget. And sometimes, the truth is protected by the most loyal heart of all.